Hi everyone, your local hipster here to talk to you about the latest Eminem album, Music to Be Murdered By. Eminem, famed Detroit rapper who, in my opinion, has put out two classic albums, the Marshall Mathers LP and the Slim Shady LP. Not in that order. A rapper known for his fast-paced rapping and his clever wordplay, as well as numerous double entendres, quick-worded remarks, and even at some points shock value. He was one of the artists that really defined the 2000s music scene, at least in the rap scene. Every white rapper nowadays wants to be Eminem. However, I feel like Eminem nowadays wants to also be his older self. But in a weird way, every album that he's put out just sees him going further and further away from his classic sound. Not saying I want, a classic Eminem sound. I appreciate and love when artists evolve their sound and style. However, I just feel like Eminem has been in this rut recently. And I would say the highest point in the 2010s for him was the Marshall Mathers 2 LP. Kind of seeing him going back to that style of that witty wordplay and that clever lyricism. And then he drops probably the worst album in his career, Revival, a sequel or a follow-up to his Recovery and Relapse series. Revival was panned by critics and fans alike as being Eminem's worst project to date, and he didn't like that take, so he put out Kamikaze in 2018. To the same reception that Revival saw, but it was basically like, well, Kamikaze's not like Revival, it's not as bad. And now another surprise release, another surprise drop in January, which is notoriously known for being the month where music just is not as good. Eminem did release a video to the track Darkness, which pops up on this album, which talks about gun violence in America, referencing the Vegas shooting and his support for gun control and other shootings that happened across the United States within the past 2 to 3 years. I found this song to be long-winded and to be a little incoherent at some points. It was Eminem trying to make arguments that have already been made, but without any depth to them. And the ending of this song is just overly verbose and just way too long. It's just 40 seconds of news clips from the shooting, how the Las Vegas shooter has killed himself, and other shootings across the United States at schools, churches, etc., etc. So going into this album again, I was hoping and praying. I came out disappointed. I am going to try my best to go through every single track on this album and explain my reasoning why I do not like this album. To start off pretty broadly and then go into more specifics, this album is 64 minutes long at 20 tracks. And the first problem that comes to mind are the pointless Alfred Hitchcock samples that are used across this entire album, from an album that Alfred Hitchcock presented as Music to Be Murdered By. And Eminem was not shy to say that this album was influenced by Alfred Hitchcock himself. And with these Alfred Hitchcock vocal samples put into these songs and even just tracks on their own, they try to put this album together in a weird way, but it's kind of like putting a square peg through a round hole. It's trying to force a weird thing through it. It's forcing this concept of an album. Moving away from the concept of this album as a whole, I want to talk about individual songs at length, and I have a list of lyrics that are just truly bad. We start the album off with the track Premonition, talking about the reception that Revival got, as well as Kamikaze. The first line that Eminem hits us with, not on the intro, but on the verse. The first line he says, "They said my last album I sounded bitter. No, I sounded like a spitter." Once we get deeper into the song, he says, "I was considered one time as the illest. Bitch, I'm still fly as a zipper." There are also numerous jabs to people like Tech9, 2 Chainz, LL Cool J, Rolling Stones. And then he tries to take that back and say, no, I wasn't taking shots at Jay-Z or Tech9. And then he says this: "They probably feel the same way because lately, instead of being credited for longevity and being able to keep it up for this long at this level, we get told we'll never be what we were. Bitch, if I was half as good as I was, I'm still twice as good as you'll ever be." Except Jay-Z dropped a fantastic album in 2017, 444. 2 Chainz dropped at least a good album last year. Those two artists that you just referenced, Jay-Z and 2 Chainz, have put out good material recently. You're the only one that's not putting out good material. And maybe a few others here and there, but that's why they've fallen off. And then he hits us with this amazing line. The only way you're ahead of me is alphabetically, cause if you diss me, I'm coming after you like the letter V. That's not the only line that's corny as hell. And not the only line that references the alphabet. Then we get the second track off of this album, Unaccommodating, featuring young M.A. Eminem's similar intense approach to his criticisms about Revival and Kamikaze are on this track in spades. And then he says this distasteful line, which he has been getting hate for. But I'm contemplating yelling bombs away on the game like I'm outside of an Ariana Grande concert waiting, referring to the Manchester bombing that happened in 2018 outside an Ariana Grande concert. Back in the day, Eminem used to do this to get a lot of attention, get a lot of angry people at him, which makes fans go back to his music. And I think he's doing the same thing on this album. However, I think it's for a slightly different reason. I think he's noticing that his relevance in the media, in the mainstream, is waning, and that he's trying to get more people back on his side. It just seems like he's just doing this to get attention and do all of that, and hey, it won't be the first time he's done that. But it's just so distasteful, and this is not the last time we hear about a murder or anything like that. He also references Sharon Tate's murder, looking down the barrel like Sharon Tate. I'm getting ahead of myself. Moving on from here, we have the chorus, which references John Benet Ramsey, of all people. They want to John Benet me. I'm unaccommodating. And then we get verse 3 on this track, which is a landmine of name drops. We got John Wayne Casey, Kanye, Beyonce, Jay-Z again, Snoop Dogg, K-Dot. And not only this verse, but the first song, Premonition, sounds like a Hobson song when Hobson's trying to bring attention to him just by name-calling a bunch of people. And then we get one of the more enjoyable cuts on this album, You Gon' Learn. The chorus of this thing is soaked in some reverb, and originally it was supposed to be on Royce da 5'9's album. White Gold has a great verse on this song. Nothing really too bad about this song, it's not a bad track. And then we get the, then we get the song Those Kinda Nights, which features Ed Sheeran of all people. And Eminem takes it back to his classic days, which most of the time doesn't sound like a bad idea. However, this song just sounds horrible. At the beginning, it's fine. At the beginning, it's completely fine, but then we get verse 3 of this track. OMG, like the gas in the tank, she's getting low on me. Says she wants to go out with me. I said, go with you where? She said, out. I said, I'm a candle. I'll go out if you blow on me. Not the first time Eminem has used that candle line by blowing on a candle and blowing out, and how that is related to blowjobs, getting head in a bucket, marshmallow. Some of the delivery that he does for this track also sounds annoying too. And I would say after this point, this entire album just starts to just become abhorrently bad. We get the track In Too Deep, which honestly doesn't have that bad of a chorus Eminem is singing on this track, and it doesn't sound half bad. Then we get the line, call us Long John Silver cause we selfish, and this happens to be in verse 3 as well. Godzilla is the cut that everyone's been raving about because it has a Juice WRLD feature, rest in peace. Juice WRLD and Eminem do not have a good chemistry. They do not have good chemistry at all. And then we get the third verse on this thing, which I don't know what the hell is with verse 3 on these songs, but it's all kinds of bad. Like a liar's pants, I'm on fire. I ain't got no plans to retire, and I'm still the man you admire. The only reason why I'm admiring Eminem is because of his 2 albums that are good. That's really the only reason why I think fans even go to his show, and there are fans that like his newer material, no doubt. Either way, I'm going back to this. This entire verse is just god-awful. Later in this track, he's just going extremely fast, not saying much, and just being incredibly hot-headed. Then we get Darkness, which I talked about previously, but this point in the track listing, he's already said anything about the Manchester bombing. He's going to say something about Sharon Tate, so the song is just completely sidestepped by all of the awful material that this song is swimming in. Skip. And then we get track 9, which is, in my opinion, the best song on this album, because it shows an amazing verse from Eminem, one of his best verses in a while. Ironically happens to be verse 3, where he talks about his deadbeat dad and him being bullied. And it just shows a lot of anger that I wish Eminem had, but directed towards his dad and not critics. This entire verse, though, is really good. And just this entire verse sounds wholehearted. It sounds genuine. It comes from a genuine place of hurt. And the chorus isn't half bad either. Overall, this song is amazing. This is a good song, but it's swimming in this pile of shit that is this album. And then we get the track Ya Ya, which is a posse cut similar to You Gon' Learn and similar to the track I Will, which later appears on this album. The track doesn't sound half bad, but the hook is obnoxious. It's so obnoxious, it ruins my enjoyment for the song. Then we get the track Stepdad, which has this annoying intro cut. However, this song could have been way better than it is. The hook on this thing, the chorus, what the fuck is this shit? It sounds so bad. It sounds so bad. And at this point, I'm just completely turned off. Like, I'm tuned out. I'm not even paying attention to what Eminem is saying anymore. But listening to this album over and over and over again, I found this lyrical moment. So many battery charges, this dude's like lithium ion. Yeah, this song's trash too. This song's horrible. And then we get the track March, which isn't too horrible, but compared to the rest of this album, it's like Beethoven. However, we get the line that starts this track off by saying, "'Cause with all this ABC shit, I'm starting to sound like Alf a bit." Like the character Alf, but it's like a double entendre saying alphabet. Yeah, it's a stretch, but it's annoying too. And I guess the chorus on this has a nice psychedelic vibe to it. And then we get Never Love Again. And the first verse off of this sounds like an abusive boyfriend. Just kind of like apologizing. "Oh, it's no excuse to abuse you, because if I could be with anyone, I'd choose you. To be truthful, I wouldn't know what to do if I lose you, so I refuse to. I might have a screw loose and a fuse blew. 'Cause one minute I'm hollowing screw you. Next I take it back. I guess you can say I'm trying to unscrew you." And it's songs like these that Dr. Dre should be ashamed of that he worked on them, because for the most part, the production on this album sounds like clown music. Annoying, obnoxious, repetitious, and what the hell is with this stupid synth playing in the latter half of the song? And then we get the track Little Engine, and the only thing I have to say about the song is, what the fuck is this chorus? Now little engine gone. This is a track that also features that Sheeran Tate line too. Overall, this song is just a lyrical landmine. I don't even need to go through it because I think it's hilarious if you would go through it. Track 16 has a good verse from Anderson .Paak. He does deliver a good chorus. A highlight on this album, however, there is this line that says, "I put that on everything like ranch." Where the hell has Eminem gone? He's not here. He's not here. He was on that song, Leaving Heaven. He's not anywhere else on this album. The only moment where I think like Eminem sounds himself is on the chorus of I Will, and maybe a few moments, like a line on a song. That's it. He's just gone. He's off the deep end. And then he over-explains this part. Now that shady babies are stillborns, meaning abortions that lived because they were stillborn, showing his side to like the abortion thing where it's like, oh, you know, life is important, you know, don't have abortions. That's what I'm getting off of some of the songs on here. Then we get the song Farewell, which is just annoying, bland pop rap, throw it in the trash. And then we get this interesting line on No Regrets, where he says, "Yeah, they miss the old me. I think they want me to OD on codeine. They want my life in turmoil like '03. They want front row seats. I give them nosebleeds." The last thing I want Eminem to do is overdose. Alright, I don't want Eminem to die. I just want him to be himself. We saw that on Leaving Heaven. We see that bits and pieces on this album, but it's not a return to form. It's far from that. It seems like he's lost himself within the span of Revival, Kamikaze, and now this. Then we get the last song on this album, which is I Will, which is another posse cut. There are some weak lines on this song, however, the track as a whole is not bad. The chorus sounds killer as hell, and the verses aren't too bad either. And then we get the ending, which is technically just an outro of Alfred speaking, and throughout this entire album, There are very, very, very few lyrical oases that pop up here and there. But from lines like, "Cause with all this ABC shit, I'm starting to sound like Alphabet," and a line I forgot to mention, "Cause I met your bitch on the internet, now I'm getting head like a pillow pet." Lines that are absolutely childish, bars that sound like someone wrote them for Eminem, lyrics that are just absolutely incompetent, production that sounds boring and bland as hell, and I'm sitting here wondering what the hell happened to Eminem, because he sounds like he fell off drastically, dramatically, ever since Revival and Kamikaze. Coming from someone who likes Eminem's older material and even some newer material here and there, I think I'm Not Afraid is still not a bad cut off of Recovery, and he has some songs in the decade that sound fine and good, but the only moment on this album that I'm saying yes, yes, yes is Leaving Heaven. But the more I talk about this album, the more I'm just gonna get frustrated and irritated. Because this album shows that Eminem has fallen off. Kamikaze showed that Eminem could at least bounce back somewhat, but if this album shows anything, it's that Eminem fell off. From the pointless Alfred Hitchcock samples to the obnoxious production choices on this thing, this album just isn't that good. Honestly, bordering on parody, because the only enjoyment I get off of this album is ironically. And yeah, not a straight up F-, not even an F, but a very strong F+, for me at least. This isn't coming from me being angry, this is coming from me being disappointed and upset with Eminem, because he had something, but he lost his spark, he lost his energy. There are some times where his wordplay is interesting and lyrically witty, but this album's a landmine of bad verses, horrible features, and honest to God, some of the worst production I've seen Eminem drop. And some songs don't even end properly either. I feel like I wanted to say more, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. I've talked for over 40 minutes at this point, and I'm just gonna stop myself, because if I don't, I'm gonna continue on for another 40 minutes. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this album. And remember, this is only my opinion because music is subjective.